Hello, this is Miss Holly, and today I'm going to go over the solutions to the calculator active portion of the 4th grade EOG. Okay, so starting off with number 21, RVU is a straight line and angle TVU, this is this angle here, as a measure of 40 degrees in this figure. So we'll mark that as 40 degrees. What is the measure of angle SVT? So that's this angle here, and that's what we want to find. So seeing this square here, we know that RVS is a right angle. And because that's a right angle, that means that the ray VS must be perpendicular to the line RU. Since they're perpendicular, this angle here must also be a right angle. That means that the entire angle SVU has to add up to 90 degrees. And that angle is split up into two parts, angle SVT and angle TVU. That means that whatever the measure of angle SVT is, plus 40 degrees, since that's the measure of angle TVU, has to equal 90 degrees. And if we work that out, we know that the measure of angle SVT has to equal 90 minus 40, and that's going to get us that the answer is 50 degrees. And that's going to be C. Okay, number 22. Michael is solving 23 by 42 using this rectangular array. So what this rectangular array is doing is splitting each of these numbers up into a tens part and a ones part. So 23 is being split into 20 and 3, and 40 is being split into 40 and 2. To figure out where on the box these numbers should go, we can look at the numbers that they've already given us. So we know that 6 is equal to 3 times 2. Each of these numbers in the box has to be a product of two of these numbers I've written over to the side. 40 can be written as 20 times 2. $800 is equal to 20 times 40. So based on this, since this number is 3 by 2 and this number is 20 times 2, that would indicate that the number on this side has to be 2. If this is 2, then this little section here has to be 3. If this is 3, then this is 20 by 40, this is 20 by 2. That means that what they have in common is the 20. So this area has to be 20. So we're looking at, for two things that are in a row with each other, which multiplier do they have in common? So this is 20, that's 3, that's 2, just like on the other side. And that means that this side here has to be 40. So let me just erase some of this stuff to clear it up. Okay. So we know that this is 40, and this is 20, this is 2, this is 3. That means that this question mark has to be equal to 40 times 3. 40 times 3 is 120. So our answer is going to be D, 120. The other way that you could potentially solve this, since it's the calculator active section, is you could do 23 multiplied by 42 and figure out what that total value is. Once you have that value, you could subtract all the other numbers that are already in this square to get what's remaining. So 23 by 42 is equal to 966. Wait, no. Yes, 966. And if we subtracted the other numbers here, we'd subtract 800, we'd subtract 40, and we'd subtract 6. 966 minus 800 is 166. 166 minus 40 is 126. And 126 minus 6 is 120. So you could also treat it as that kind of problem and solve for it that way. All right. Number 23, which group of numbers includes only composite numbers? So here it's important to know what a composite number is. A composite number is a number that has factors other than 1 in itself. So if we remember prime numbers are numbers like 2, 3, 11, that don't have any factors other than 1 in themselves. So there are no other numbers that go evenly into those numbers. A composite number is the opposite of that. So a number like 4, because 4 is equal to 2 times 2, or 8, because 8 can be written as 4 times 2. So when we're looking to know which group of numbers includes only composite numbers, if we look at choice A, 3 is a prime number because 3 has no factors other than 1 in itself. That means that we can immediately cancel out A, because if we want the group to contain only composite numbers, that means it can't contain any prime numbers. For answer B, 12 is a composite number, can be written as 3 times 4, 15 is equal to 3 times 5, 21 equals 3 times 7, 28 equals 4 times 7, 31 has no factors other than 1 in itself. And you can test that out by dividing it by a few numbers, divide by 1 and 2, 3, 4, etc. But you'll find that there's nothing that goes into 31 other than 1 and 31. For C, 15 we said is composite, 18 is equal to 2 times 9, 21 is equal to 3 times 7, 24 is equal to 3 times 8, 25 is equal to 5 times 5. So all of these numbers have factors other than 1 in themselves, which means that they are all composite. Number 24, which choice is equal to 462? Okay, so if we look at the place values for 462, we know that we have 2 1s, we have 6 10s, and we have 4 hundreds. But if we look over at our answer choices, that's not one of the options. So we have to be a little bit more creative. Now, if we look at D, 4 hundreds, 60 10s, and 2 1s, we know that 10 10s makes up 100. So this would be like saying 4 hundreds, 6 more hundreds, and 2 1s, which would be 1002. It's way too big. We have a similar issue in C if we said 4 hundreds and 62 10s. That would be like 400 plus 620, which is, again, way too big. For choice B, we'd have 3 100s, 6 10s, and 2 1s. But that would give us 362 instead of 462, so that doesn't work. For A, if we have 3 hundreds, 16 tens, and 2 ones, that's like saying 300 plus 160 plus 2. And altogether, what we would get from that is 462. So that means that our answer here is A. Okay, 25. A tree was 14 3/8 inches tall when it was first planted. 2 years later, the tree was 21 1/8 inches tall. How much did the tree grow in the 2 years? So we want to find the difference between the original height and the final height, which means that we're going to have to subtract the original from the final. To do this, we're going to do 21 1/8 minus 14 3/8. Now, we can't subtract 3/8 from 1/8 without doing anything. So what we're going to need to do is turn this 21 into a 20 and add 8/8 to this 1/8 so that this 1/8 becomes 9/8. Now when we do the subtraction, we get 20 minus 14 equals 6, and 9/8 minus 3/8 equals 6/8. So our answer is going to be B, 6 6/8 inches. Okay. Wendy filled a bucket with vegetables from her garden. The vegetables weighed 7,000 grams. She sold 4,200 grams of the vegetables. How much did the remaining vegetables weigh? Okay, so if she had a bucket with vegetables from her garden, and they originally weighed 7,000 grams, but she then sold 4,200 grams of the vegetables, that means she's going to have a lot less vegetables than when she started, and her bucket's going to weigh less than it did originally. That means that we need to subtract. So we're going to subtract 4,200 from 7,000. And we do the subtraction. 0 minus 0 is 0, 0 minus 0 is 0. We can't do 0 minus 2, so we borrow from the 7. This becomes a 6. We bring over a 1. 10 minus 2 is 8. And 6 minus 4 is 2. So our answer is going to be A, 2,800 grams. Fourth grade students were surveyed about their favorite pizza topping. This graph shows the results. So on this axis, we have number of students. This axis, we have pizza toppings. And this is a histogram. A histogram basically just means a chart that looks like this, where we have certain number for each category. How many more fourth graders chose pepperoni or sausage than chose the other toppings? Okay, so we want to know how many more people fell into the categories of pepperoni or sausage than cheese and mushroom. So to do that, we need to figure out first how many people had pepperoni or sausage. To figure out how many had either or, we need to add together the number who had pepperoni to the number who had sausage. The number who had pepperoni, if we look over to this side of the histogram, we see is a 35. The number who had sausage, if we trace it over, is 15. So let's redraw that. So that's 35, and this is 15. So if we add those two together, altogether 50 students had one or the other. Now, to figure out how many more chose them than chose cheese or mushroom, we need to add together how many chose cheese and mushroom? So looking at the side of the histogram, 25 chose cheese. Tracing over from mushroom, we see that it goes to 10. 10 chose mushroom. Altogether, 35 students chose either cheese or mushroom. Now, the difference between the number that chose pepperoni or sausage and the number that chose cheese or mushroom is going to equal 50 minus 35, which is 15. So our answer here is going to be C, 15. Last week, Jeff read 8 pages of his book. This week, he has read 6 times as many pages as last week. How many pages has Jeff read altogether during the 2 weeks? Okay, so last week, Jeff read 8 pages. This week, he has read 6 times as many pages, which means that this week he has read 6 times 8 pages. So last week, this week, 6 times 8, and 6 times 8 is 48. Now, what they're asking for is how many pages has Jeff read all together during the 2 weeks? So that means that we need to add together the amount he read last week to the amount he read this week. 48 plus 8 is going to equal 56. So our answer for this question is going to be D, 56. 29. Which polygon can have 4 sides of equal length, 2 pairs of parallel sides, and no right angles? Okay, so firstly, we need a polygon that has 4 sides of equal length. A polygon with 4 sides, equal length, my first thought might be a square. Except they say that it also needs to have 2 pairs of parallel sides. Well, that fits with a square. And no right angles. So one of the things that sets a square aside is that a square has 4 right angles. And every square is going to have 4 right angles. Rectangles, while they don't have to have all the same sides, also always have to have 4 right angles. So because of this stipulation that the polygon has to have no right angles, we know that it can't be a rectangle or a square. That leaves us with trapezoid and rhombus. So a trapezoid is normally going to look something like this. And one of the key parts of a trapezoid is that it only has 1 pair of parallel sides, the top and the bottom, and those sides are not the same length. So because a trapezoid doesn't have all equal sides and it doesn't have 2 pairs of parallel sides, that can't be our answer. What we're left with is a rhombus. And if we know what a rhombus is a quadrilateral with 4 equal sides. And while it can have 4 right angles, it doesn't necessarily have to. It also has 2 sets of parallel sides, so everything else fits this description, and our answer is going to be C, rhombus. 30. Maria drank 3 liters of water last week. Her friend drank twice as much water as Maria. How many milliliters of water did they both drink? So if we look at this term, milliliters, a milliliter is equal to 1/1000th of a liter. That means that 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. So a milliliter is much, much smaller than a liter. Now, Maria drank 3 liters of water last week, which means she drank 3,000 milliliters. Her friend drank twice as much water as Maria. Twice as much as 3,000 milliliters is going to be equal to 2 times 3,000, which is 6,000 milliliters. Now, the question is asking how many milliliters of water did they both drink? That means we want to combine the amount that Maria drank with the amount that her friend drank. 3,000 milliliters plus 6,000 milliliters is going to get us 9,000 milliliters. So altogether, they drank 9,000 milliliters. Oops. Rays PQ and PR are perpendicular. What is the value of x? So by the definition of perpendicular lines meet at a right angle. If we remember, a right angle has 90 degrees. Now, this angle here, which has x degrees, combined with this angle, which is 20 degrees, has to add up to 90 degrees. That means that x plus 20 has to equal 90. So to solve for x, what we're going to want to do is subtract 20 from this side. So x is going to be equal to 90 minus the 20 degrees we already have from this angle. So x equals 90 minus 20. 90 minus 20 is going to be B70. Number 32. Thomas lives more than 0.55 kilometers and less than 0.75 kilometers from his school. Which choice could be the distance Thomas lives from his school? So he lives more than 0.55 kilometers, which means it has to be a number that's bigger than 0.55 kilometers. But he also lives less than 0.75 kilometers from the school. That means we're looking for a number that falls between 0.55 kilometers and 0.77 kilometers. So between 0.55 and 0.75, we have to figure out which of these numbers works. So if we look at choice A, 0.06 kilometers, 0.06 kilometers is like 6/100ths of a kilometer. That's really small. So that's going to be a lot less than 0.55. So that's not going to fulfill the requirement of having to be greater than 0.55, so that answer isn't going to work. 0.5 kilometers is also going to be less than 0.55 kilometers. So that answer isn't going to work. 0.60 kilometers, 0.60 is bigger than 0.55, and it's less than 0.75, because if we look at these numbers, 55 is smaller than 60, and 60 is smaller than 75. That means that it fulfills both of the requirements for the question, and C is our answer. If we looked at 1.3 kilometers, that would be way too big. Okay. Number 33, which figure has the most lines of symmetry? So remember, a line of symmetry is a line where the figure is the same on both sides and you could fold it over and it would fold onto itself. So if you look at this square, it has lines of symmetry at both diagonals and horizontally and vertically. So altogether, it has 4 lines of symmetry. If we look at this pentagon, we can draw a line of symmetry through each of these points. And altogether, it has 5 lines of symmetry. If we look at this triangle, we have, again, a line of symmetry through each of these points, and it has 3 total lines of symmetry. So here we're at 3, 4, 5. Now if we look at this circle, we can draw a line of symmetry here, But we could also draw a line of symmetry here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and basically at any point along the circle that's across from another point. Because the circle has infinitely many points going around the outside, it actually has infinitely many lines of symmetry. So it's going to have a ton more lines of symmetry than anything else possibly could. So our answer here is going to be B, the circle. Number 34, if this pattern continues, what will the next three numbers be? Okay, so to figure out what's going on with this pattern, we should look at the difference between each number. So from 10 to 15, we're adding 5. From 15 to 25, we add 10. From 25 to 40, we add 15. From 40 to 60, we add 20. And what we can see happening here is that each time we're adding 5 more than we did the last time. That means that for this next number, we should add 25 to 60. 60 plus 25 is 85. For the number after 85, we're going to add 5 more than 25. So we're going to add 30. 85 plus 30 is 115. And then for our final number, we're going to want to add 5 more than that. So we're going to do 115 plus 35. That's going to get us to 150. So if we look at these solutions, that's going to be answer choice C. Every Saturday morning, Jack reads for 30 minutes, plays basketball for 60 minutes, and rides his bike. If Jack starts these activities at 10:25 a.m. and finishes them at 12:10 p.m., how long does he spend riding his bike? So let's assume that he reads first. If he starts at 10:25 and reads for 30 minutes, he's going to finish reading at 10:55. Now, from 10:55, we know that he plays basketball for 60 minutes. 60 minutes is equal to an hour. So we're just going to add an hour here. And he finishes playing basketball at 11:55. Now we know that he finishes all 3 activities at 12:10 p.m. So he can use the remaining time between 11:55 and 12:10 to ride his bike. So from 11:55, 5 minutes from then, it'll be 12 o'clock. 10 minutes after 12 o'clock, we'll hit 12:10. So altogether, there's 15 minutes between 11:55 and 12:10. So he has 15 minutes to ride his bike. Which number sentence could be used to solve this problem? Well, if we look at the original equation they give us here, they give us these fractions as mixed numbers. But if we look at our solutions, they've given us all improper fractions. So what we need to do here is convert these mixed numbers into improper fractions. Starting off with 2 3/5, we can do this first by multiplying 2 and 5. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 3 is 13. So 2 3/5 is equal to 13/5. For 1 1/5, we're going to do 1 times 5 is 5, add 1, and we get 6/5. So we can rewrite this original equation as 13/5 minus 6/5 equals x. And that's going to be the same as answer choice D. Number 37. Kathy has a garden that is 15 feet wide and 20 feet long. She will plant 1 bulb per square foot. Each bag of bulbs contains 9 bulbs. How many bags does Kathy need to buy? Okay. So, firstly, we want to know how many square feet her garden is. So if this is the garden, it's 15 by 20. To find the number of square feet, we need to find the area of the garden, and we do that by multiplying the length and the width. So 15 times 20 equals 300. Now, each bag of bulbs contains 9 bulbs, and we want to know how many bags she needs to buy. So to figure out how many bags, we need to divide 300 square feet by the 9 bulbs per bag. Nine goes into 30, 3 times 9, 27. Subtract, we get 3. Bring down that 0, 30, 9 goes into 30 3 times. 3 times 9, 27. Subtract, and we get 3. So 33, remainder 3. Now, we might be tempted to just say 33 here. But since it's 33 remainder 3, what that means is that if we got 33 bags of bulbs and we multiplied it by those 9 bulbs in the bags, we would still need 3 more bulbs to fill every square foot of that garden. Since we can't buy 3 bulbs individually, we're going to have to buy another bag of 9 to make up for that. So we're actually going to have to buy 34 bags instead of 33 bags, and at the end we're just going to have a few bulbs left over. Okay, this table shows the number of students at a school in the years 2014 through 2016. In 2015, there are more students than in 2014, but fewer than in 2016. What could be the number of students in 2015? So in 2014, there were 1,030 students based on this chart. In 2016, there were 1,300. So we want more students than 1,030 than in 2014. So we want more than 1,030. But we want a number that's also less than 2016 because they say that there were fewer students than in 2016. So we want a number that's between these two numbers. If we look at 1,003, 1,003 is smaller than 1,030, so we can cancel that out. If we look at 1,033, 1,033 is slightly bigger than 1,030, so that works. And 1,033 is also smaller than 1,300, so it fits both requirements, and that's going to be our answer choice. If we look at the remaining answers, C, 1,303, that's bigger than 1,300, and 1,330 is also bigger than 1,300, so that's not going to work. (39) Marcy saw this number line in class. Which shaded section has the same value as n? Okay, so firstly, we want to know how many tickers there are on this number line between 0 and 1. We count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And notice I'm just counting how many of these like spaces there are. So there's 10, and n is located 1, 2, 3, 4, right around 4.5 tickers in, or 4.5 spaces. So if we look at these charts below, exactly half of 1 would be at 5, or 50%. If we look at answer choice C, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 bars out of 10 total filled in. So that would be consistent with a point that's right at this 4th marker, because that's 4/10. But we see that n is a little bit past 4/10, so that's not going to work. If we look at choice D, we have exactly 5 of these columns filled in out of 10. So that's 5/10, which is equal to exactly 1/2. And again, that's going to put us at this middle marker that's a little bit past n. If we look at answer choice B, out of 10 total rows, we filled in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5 rows. So that would put us at 5.5 markers in, which is too far. If we look at answer choice A, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, 4.5 rows. So that would put us at 4.5, which is right where we said n was. So answer choice A lines up well with this number line. Okay. On to our final problem. So for number 40, there are 1,829 students at a middle school. 568 students are in 6th grade. 629 students are in 7th grade. The rest of the students are in 8th grade. How many students are in 8th grade? So we know that the total number of students in the school is 1,829. And that has to be equal to the number of students in all the grades combined. So that means that 1,829 equals 568 plus 629 plus x, where x is the number of students in 8th grade, and this is the number of students in 6th, and this is the number of students in 7th. So to figure out how many students are in 8th grade, we're going to want to subtract each of these numbers from 1,829. If we do 1,829 minus 629 first, you will get 1,200. And then if we subtract 568 from 1,200, we're going to be left with 632. So our answer here is going to be B, 632. And if you want to draw out how to do this one, you could turn this 0 to a 10, which would mean we'd need to turn this 0 into a 9 and borrow 1 from this 2, make it a 1. You have to borrow from this one, make that a 0, and make this an 11, and then work out all that subtraction. Okay, so that's going to finish up the calculator active portion of this exam. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope that this video was helpful. Bye.